Okay, I'm gonna start this video with a woosah and a deep breath because I really want to be in the right headspace to talk to you all properly about the COVID-19 pandemic. Today is Wednesday. What is it? August 4th, 2021. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. And I am genuinely coming to you with love. Now, there is a part of me that is frustrated as you know what. There's a part of me that's angry. I'm being 100% transparent. There's a part of me that is incredibly sad. There's a part of me that is heartbroken. But I'm coming to you in love because I have to believe that if you are watching this video and you have not yet gotten the COVID-19 vaccine, that you have some very serious concerns. And those concerns are valid. Well, some of them. Some of the concerns are valid, even though it may not be true. And so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I agree with some of you, but I am going to say, and this is coming from my heart, I understand many of you. I understand the trepidation. I understand the mistrust in the government. I understand the mistrust in the medical system. I know that many of you, especially if you look like me, you have been crapped on by the American healthcare system. I know that. I know that you have had doctors and nurses treat you with disrespect. I know that you have been dismissed. I know that your family members have received subpar care, and maybe they've even died. I know this. Why? Because I have experienced it myself. But you guys, we have to find a way to put that aside. I'm not asking you to forget it. I'm not even asking you to forgive it. But the treatment that you or your family member may have received in this healthcare system and all of the years and years of trauma that Black and brown people have been subject to, not just back in the Tuskegee days, not just back in the slavery days, but today, that's all valid. But you all, people are dying. And this is what I know for sure. Somebody who is watching this video today is going to be sick with COVID in the near future. Somebody who is watching this video today, unfortunately, is going to die from COVID in the near future. And if it's not you, it's going to be somebody in your circle. And this is not a scare tactic, you all. I promise you, this is not a scare tactic. I really wish that those of you who have doubts about whether coronavirus is real or whether it's really infecting as many people as you hear on the news or whether it really killed as many people as you hear on the news. Those of you who carry these conspiracy theories related to fake death certificates, and those of you who, thank God, up until now, you maybe have been spared. Despite not being vaccinated, despite maybe not wearing a mask, despite practicing behaviors that you know put yourself at risk, you have been spared. And that, my friend, is a blessing. It does not mean that it's going to continue. It does not mean that you are safe. It honestly means that you are blessed. And if you don't believe in blessings, you are lucky. That is it. But guess what? The tide is turning. All of the things that you thought you knew about COVID, over the last year and a half, they are changing because of these variants, particularly the Delta variant. We are seeing lots and lots of young adults and children being hospitalized for COVID. There are children in the intensive care units throughout the country, especially in the South, where the vaccination rate is low, with COVID. There are young adults in their 20s and 30s and 40s who are hospitalized, and yes, some are dying, and not all of them have underlying health conditions. I need you to hear me. I need you to try for a moment to think about other things that you've been afraid of, but that you did anyway. Maybe you jumped off of a diving board. Maybe you drove for the first time. All of us have had to do things that were incredibly scary. Maybe you went back to school to pursue a degree after having multiple kids. Maybe you filed for a divorce. Maybe you changed your career. Maybe you left a toxic friendship or a toxic relationship. There are so many things that we do every day that are scary. So I'm not negating your fear. I'm not negating the fact that some of you feel concerned that this vaccine is new. Some of you feel that it was rushed. Some of you say, I don't know what's going to happen to me in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years. I'm not negating that. But you all, we do lots of scary things. What we cannot deny is that when we were in our homes and when there were universal mask mandates in most parts of the country, the COVID numbers started to come down. What we cannot deny is that when COVID vaccines became available and more people throughout the United States and abroad were getting vaccinations, the numbers came down, way down. The COVID cases came down. The hospitalizations came down. The death rates came down. The hospitals were no longer full. We were able to start gathering, and we were able to start flying, and we were able to start seeing our family members. You all, that is because of the vaccine and people continuing to wear masks. There is no other explanation for that. So for those of you who are still questioning whether the vaccines work, whether masks work, come on, y'all. Like, y'all are smart. Y'all are brilliant. And in many ways, y'all are fearless when it comes to everything else. We eat foods that we know we don't have any business eating. We eat foods that have all kinds of chemicals and additives in them. And none of us, well, I'm going to say many of us, most of us, including myself, do not read the label every single time you put something in your mouth. We don't go line by line by line asking what's this, what's that. We don't Google those ingredients to see what they're going to do to us. And furthermore, we eat stuff that we know is harmful to us. We know it, but we do it anyway. Some of you get in cars without wearing your seatbelt, despite all of the data that shows that wearing a seatbelt is going to save your life. That's scary. So we do scary things. All of us take over-the-counter medications, which have significant risks. They're rare, but guess what? They're more common than the risks that you see with the vaccines. I'm not saying this to scare you, but what I'm saying is we have to be rational. Why now? Why in the middle of a deadly global pandemic are we suddenly so concerned about what goes in our bodies? Now, again, I'm not saying that's not important, but why don't we exercise that same caution and that same concern when we engage in other risky behaviors? It's not an all or none. But what I'm saying is that we do scary things, things that are way more risky. Trust me when I tell you, way more risky than taking a COVID-19 vaccine. For those of you who are more fearful of the vaccine reactions and side effects than you are from COVID, despite everything that's out there, I wish that you could be a fly on the wall. I wish that I could get you into these hospitals and these emergency departments and these critical care units and just let you be a fly on the wall for 2-3 hours. I wish that you could see what the doctors are seeing, what the nurses are seeing. You all, we're not making this up. This is not a scam. It doesn't matter who formulated the virus. It doesn't matter if this whole thing was some sort of conspiracy. All that matters is that it's here now. No matter how it got here, the virus is here. The virus is mutating. The only way viruses can mutate is when they replicate, which means when they reproduce themselves. And that is their sole job. These viruses are freaking gangsters. And their sole job is to survive. And the only way they survive is by multiplying. And the only way that they can multiply uncontrollably is in unvaccinated people, especially unvaccinated people who have not had the COVID-19 infection. So when these viruses replicate, sometimes they mess up. Sometimes things get a little screwy, and that's what leads to these variants. And what happens is some of the variants that are produced when these viruses mess up, when they replicate, they become less powerful. They become less able to infect us, and those die off, and you're never going to hear about those. But the ones that survive are the ones that get craftier. They're the ones that figure out how to evade or avoid our immune systems. They're the ones that get stronger. And so this Delta variant is more infectious. It's more transmissible. It's more contagious, and it is more deadly. And now it's just sweeping up everybody. Kids, old adults, middle-aged adults, healthy people, people who aren't healthy. And it is preferentially infecting those who are unvaccinated. Now, you're going to hear on the news about this person and this person who got the vaccine and yet they still got COVID. Yes, because the vaccines were never meant to prevent you from getting COVID. We never said that. The vaccines were made to prevent or decrease death and serious illness. And you all, they are doing it like a freaking champ. So that even people who are getting COVID now, who may have been vaccinated 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and maybe their immunity is waning, most of them are not even getting significantly ill. Some of them are not even having symptoms. But guess what? They can still pass it to those of you who have chosen not to get vaccinated. So I just want to give you a scenario. Let's say that you are feeling confident. You're young-ish. You don't have any underlying health conditions. And you're thinking, even if I get COVID, it's just going to be like a cold. Okay, first of all, that may not be true, but I'm just going to let's just sit with that. Do you know how many people have brought COVID home to their families without knowing it, and certainly without meaning to? Do you know how many people have brought COVID home to their parents, to their grandparents, to their young children? Do you know how many people have given COVID to a grocery store worker who has no choice but to work, but who may not have a proper immune system to fight this off? Do you know how many people have given COVID to the Uber driver, to the person at the restaurant? I mean, you all, this thing, people are killing people. People have inadvertently killed their own family members. How would you feel if that was you? If you found out that you were the source of a COVID infection in your family? That's what this thing is about. It's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's about all of us. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about the rights. You don't have a right to drive drunk. You don't. Why? Because your driving drunk may kill my daughter. Your driving drunk may kill my husband. Your driving drunk may kill my sister, my brother, my uncle, my nieces and nephews, or me. So you don't have the right to do that. Similarly, you don't have the right to go out here willy-nilly, unvaccinated, without a mask. No, you don't have the right to do that. And while you do have the right to choose what goes into your body, and you do have the right to choose not to be vaccinated, you don't have the right to then go rogue with that and mix and mingle and engage in high-risk behaviors with other people. No, 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 no. If you choose to not be vaccinated, then please be safe and don't do things that could infect others. Wear your mask, especially and at all times when you're indoors. Wear your mask if you're outdoors, you're going to be around a bunch of people. Think about the other people that you can potentially infect. If you don't want to worry about yourself, think about other people. You all, we are never going to get out of this pandemic if we keep thinking about ourselves, if we keep focusing on our rights. I cannot believe that there are people out here protesting about kids having to wear masks in school. Kids under 12, you all, don't even have the option of getting vaccinated. There are kids who have cancer, who are undergoing chemotherapy. There are kids who have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and they have to take medication every day that suppresses their immune system. Do they not deserve to go back to school? Do they have to stay at home for the next year because some of you are so freaking selfish that you're more concerned about your child being able to express themselves and smile so that everybody can see them and all of this other ridiculous stuff I'm seeing on the internet? Does that mean that the child with cancer, the child with immunodeficiency, the child who's not old enough to get vaccinated is now at risk? And now their parents are trying to figure out what to do for yet another school year because we can't just make our kids wear masks, which are safe? Okay, I'm feeling myself getting a little, and I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to get uptight. I didn't want to get angry because I know that that's not effective. And I'm trying to come from a place of understanding and love, but you guys, enough is enough. There is so much information out there. If you are still worried, please make yourself available to accurate information. It is not true that we don't know what's in the vaccine. You can go to www.fda.gov, Food and Drug Administration. You all, there are papers where you can read every single ingredient that is in these vaccines. There are videos by doctors that look like me, doctors that don't look like me, researchers, PhDs, epidemiologists, scientists. The information is out there. Do not get your scientific and medical information from people who aren't scientists and from people who aren't in the medical field. And not only that, there are some people in the medical field who are spreading misinformation. Yes. Let me take a deep sigh on that one. I understand that you are scared. I understand that you are mistrustful. But you all, the information is overwhelmingly positive in favor of these vaccines. I honestly don't know what else to say. I, I, I don't know what else to say, but the last thing I'll say is long COVID. You may have heard that even people who have mild COVID infections are subject to having what's called long haul syndrome or long COVID. About 30% now we know of people who have COVID will develop this long COVID, where basically you have a whole bunch of symptoms, things that we don't even know if we'll ever be able to get rid of. Things ranging from heart failure and chronic low oxygen levels, where you have to walk around with an oxygen tank, and chronic aches and pains and brain fog and headaches. You all, children are not able to go back to school because of this. Adults are not able to work. People are going out on disability because of this. And we don't know how long these symptoms are going to last. And right now, there's no treatment for it. So consider the fact that you may just get a sniffle, or maybe you'll lose your sense of taste or smell, or maybe, you'll have fever for a few days and then you'll bounce back. But then you may get long COVID. And that's not a joke, you all. And we don't know. There's no way to predict who's going to get long COVID and who's not going to get long COVID. Some of y'all don't have disability insurance. Many of you don't have life insurance. Some of you don't even have health insurance. What will you do if you happen to be that unlucky person who, despite being healthy, despite being young, gets a severe case of COVID and ends up in the ICU? Or has a mild case of COVID, and then 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks later, you end up with symptoms that you can't explain, and you get diagnosed with long COVID, and you can't go back to work, and you can't earn a living. What will you do then? This is so far-reaching. I'm going to bring this to a close. I guarantee you, my only skin in the game is that I care about you. I care about my family. I care about my community. I care about our country. I care about the world. And I am frankly sick and tired. We're all sick and tired of COVID. But you can't be sick and tired of COVID and then not be willing to do the things that we have proven will help to eradicate COVID. You can't be on both sides of the fence. So I just beg you to avail yourself of the proper information, the correct information. It's not necessarily going to be on Facebook or Twitter, because once you click on one piece of misinformation, it's going to keep feeding you more misinformation. That's how the algorithms work. But there are doctors out here like myself. There are other scientists out here. You all, we're not getting paid to do this. I'm not getting paid to record this video. I had a long day and I'm sitting in my home office with a lot of emails to check and a lot of work that I need to do. But I just could not sit quietly any longer. And so I'm taking my own time, uncompensated, to do this. And I'm not asking for a pat on the back. What you can do for me today is to get vaccinated against COVID. What you can do for me today is to wear your mask, especially when you are in public, especially when you are in public indoors, or if you are anywhere, including outdoors, around a lot of people. You all, the numbers are rising rapidly. In my county, they stopped texting us. That's how good the numbers got. We stopped getting daily text messages. And guess what? The daily text messages are back. And it went from saying 2 cases to 20 cases to 40 cases to 60 cases. It went from 0 deaths to 5 deaths to 13 deaths. I don't want to see what we saw a few months ago. And trust me, you don't want to see it either. And one last thing. I know I keep saying one last thing. Even if COVID doesn't infect you, even if COVID does not affect you, You or someone in your household may have an emergency, and you need to understand that when these COVID numbers go up, they are clogging up the healthcare system, so that if you get chest pain, or if my grandparent has a stroke, or if your neighbor has another emergency, we are all going to have difficulty getting prompt and proper medical care, because the doctors and the nurses and the other health professionals are on the way to being overwhelmed with COVID the way they were a few months ago. So even if you're lucky enough to avoid getting COVID, you may be the one who dies from that heart attack, from that stroke. You may be the one who sits for 6, 8 hours in the ER in pain because they literally cannot bring you back, because their rooms are full of people who are sick and dying from something that we can prevent. You all, please, if you have questions, send me a message, comment on the video, go to cdc.gov. There's so many other resources, you all. Just get the information, ask questions, have an open mind, and just trust the science. You don't have to trust the government. You don't have to trust Fauci, although that's my boo. But just trust the science, you all. I mean, this is undeniable. You saw the numbers go down. You saw what happened when we lifted the mask mandates. You saw what happened when people stopped getting vaccinated, and the numbers are going up. What are you going to do? All right. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. If you made it this far, I hope that means that you are still open to the possibility of getting your COVID-19 vaccine. Go to your state's website so you can find out where to get it. Just Google COVID Maryland or COVID vaccine New Jersey, and trust me, the websites will pop up. The vaccine is free. The vaccine is free. Okay? All right, you all. Take care. God bless you. And I mean that. Be safe.